Morning, everyone. So if we can find our mindful postures, sitting up straight and tall, and finding our anchor spot where we notice our breath, our belly, or our chest. And just close your eyes gently if you feel comfortable. And just notice your breath, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Just take a moment checking in with your emotions, how you're feeling today. And just listen for the sound of the bell. When you no longer hear the sound, you can open your eyes. And today, we're going to count our breaths again with that take 5. So put your hand in front, and we're going to trace up as we breathe in, trace down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. So 5 breaths. So it's an easy technique anytime that you're feeling overwhelmed or you just really want to practice your breath. You always have your hand. You can always take 5. Today we're going to read the story Counting on Katherine, how Katherine Johnson saved Apollo 13. So this was written by Helene Becker and illustrated by Dow Fumaruk. Katherine loved to count. She counted the steps to the road, the steps up to church, the number of dishes and spoons she washed in the bright white sink. The only thing she didn't count were the stars in the sky. Only a fool, she thought, would try that. Even so, the stars sparked her imagination. What was out there? She looked. Katherine yearned to know as much as she could about numbers, about the universe, about everything. Katherine's boundless curiosity turned her into a star student. She was so bright, she skipped 3 whole grades. Going from 1st grade, she skipped 2nd, 3rd, 4th, straight into 5th grade. Can you imagine? She catapulted right past her brother. How do you think he felt? Wasn't too happy about that. But there she is in class. The older students, and she's a lot younger. By the time she was only 10 years old, she was ready for high school. That's usually for 13 or 14-year-olds. But back then, America was legally segregated by race, like we learned about yesterday, reading whose story? Ruby Bridges. So her town's high school didn't admit Black students of any age. How do you think she felt about this? What does she look? She was angry. She burned with fury. She wanted more than anything to keep learning. There was still so much she wanted to know. Count on me, her father told her. And so they left their town in Virginia. And working night and day, her father earned enough money to move the whole family to a town that had a Black school in West Virginia. Katherine loved high school. She was good at every subject, but math was still her favorite. She dreamed of becoming a research mathematician, making discoveries about the number patterns that are the foundations of our universe. In those days, though, there were no jobs for research mathematicians for women. Professions most available to them were teaching and nursing. So Katherine became an elementary school teacher. She liked her job, and she loved her students, but she never stopped dreaming about exploring numbers. So in the 1950s, the U.S. government's National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, hired thousands of new employees and even started hiring black women as mathematicians. Katherine heard about this job. Her heart raced with excitement. Perhaps her dream could come true after all. But when she applied for one of the positions, she was told they were already filled. What do you think she did? Katherine had to wait a whole year until new spots opened up. Her patience paid off. She applied and she got the job. It's actually what happened to me in the job I have right now. A few years later, the Soviet Union sent a rocket ship into space, launching what we call the space race. With the United States, NACA was rolled into a new space agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. Katherine now found herself at the heart of America's space program. She worked as a computer. So electronic computers weren't widely used back then. So computers, they were actually humans calculating long series of numbers. And all the computers were women. They were given the tasks that men thought were boring or unimportant. But that didn't bother Katherine. She knew that without her contributions, a spaceship wouldn't reach its destination, nor safely return to Earth. Here's why. Sending a rocket ship into space is like throwing a ball into the air. At first, the force of the throw sends the ball up, up, up. But as its energy runs out, the ball's path curves back towards the ground. Where it lands depends on what angle it was thrown and how high and how fast it flew. Because math is a kind of language, Katherine could ask those questions. How high would the rocket ship go? And how fast would it travel? Using numbers. And numbers would provide the all-important answer. Where would the rocket ship land when it came back? To find out, Katherine plotted numbers she'd calculated on a graph. When she joined the points together, they found a curved line. At one end of that line was Earth at the time the rocket ship launched, and at the other, where Earth would be when the ship landed. Katherine's reputation for accuracy and strong leadership skills, she was known for asking plenty of questions, got her promoted to Project Mercury, a new program designed to send the first American astronauts into space. Always ask questions. It's really important to ask questions whenever you have them. Mercury's missions were going to be dangerous. So dangerous that even the Project Star astronaut, John Glenn, refused to fly unless Katherine okayed the numbers. You can count on me, she said. Glenn's spacecraft Friendship 7 orbited Earth 3 times and returned home safely. Glenn became a national hero. Katherine was promoted again. Now she was asked to calculate the flight paths for Project Apollo, the first flights to the moon. Count on me, she said. So on July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11 astronauts walked on the moon. Their feat was celebrated around the world. More triumphs followed. Apollo 12 rocketed to the moon in November of 1969. Apollo 13 launched on April 11th, 1970, but on the third day of Apollo 13's flight, the worst thing happened. An explosion in space. Could the crippled spaceship make it to the moon? And if it didn't, would it be able to get back home to Earth? The 3 astronauts on board were in grave peril, which means danger. Commander Jim Lovell told Mission Control, "Houston, we have a problem." NASA was based in Houston. Back on Earth, Katherine Johnson got a phone call. Her flight path calculations would have to be done all over again, and perfectly. It would be the toughest challenge of her life. Katherine told Mission Control, what do you think she told them? "You can count on me." She rolled up her sleeves, took a deep breath, and began doing the math. She worked hard. She worked fast. A few hours later, Katherine's calculations were finished. The flight path to return home would take the ship around the far side of the moon. From there, the moon's gravity would act like a slingshot to zing the ship right back to Earth. To get home, the crew of Apollo 13 would have to follow Katherine's course exactly by burning off fuel at very precise intervals. If the astronauts made a mistake, their ship would drift through space forever. Katherine waited anxiously to hear the astronauts report. Finally, it crackled over the loudspeakers. "We've got it! Apollo 13 was back on track." Katherine Johnson had done it. She brought Apollo 13 home. She was no longer the kid who dreamed of what would be beyond the stars. She was now a star herself. The end. So that was the story, Counting on Katherine, and how Katherine Johnson saved Apollo 13. So we can learn a lot from Katherine. I love how she always asked questions, she always persevered, she had patience, and so a lot of us could use that right now. I know we all need some patience. We all need to be able to be accountable, to be responsible for all the people in our family. And our families have to work together. Her family was behind her. Her whole family moved from one city to the other to support her. And that's beautiful. And so our families need to be together. We need to be patient. We need to persevere. We need to do our homework. Practice our math. Practice all of the things. So I love you all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow.